Hey everybody, and welcome to Veda. So, as I mentioned in my TBR video, I am tackling the Dark Tower series of books once again. And like I said, I read the first 4, but that was all that was available at the time, so I fell behind when 5, 6, and 7 came out and just never caught back up, because by the time 5 came out, I wanted to reread the first 4 again, and it was just, you know, life happened. So with the upcoming release of the movie, I decided it was time for a reread, so I've started back at the very first book, which is The Gunslinger. So I just finished this, and I was kind of amazed, like, how much I'd forgotten and like how much I just kind of internalized, and like it was still in, like, you know, deep in the recesses of my brain, but it had just kind of gotten like pushed aside for other things. But there, like I said, there's also a lot of things that I just kind of forgot that happened in this book, and like the events in Tull. I don't want to. I'm trying to be spoiler free here, so like anybody who's read the book, you'll know what I mean by the events in Tull. And if you haven't read the book, then you won't, and you'll find out when you do. I remembered about Jake, and I remembered how they started setting up the idea of people coming from other worlds to Roland's world, and, you know, because you got to remember this, you know, this first book was really a series of short stories that King wrote kind of throughout his career, starting in his early days of writing, and it didn't really become like a novel until much later. So the fact that he was doing this just remarkable world building that he did for the Dark Tower series, like from the beginning, because there are hints to things that you're going to see in future books right here, like from the very first story. I guess, like, to me, it just like goes to prove exactly how much of a master writer he really is, and why he's one of the people that, you know, other writers try to emulate. And at least for me, the way that he kind of, even subconsciously sometimes, as he mentions in, I think there was an essay in like my paperback copy of Wizards and Glass, about how he didn't even realize he was like he was kind of creating the Dark Tower as kind of a connecting series with everything he'd ever written. So how he was kind of subconsciously setting up these dominoes that were going to all start taking one after the other, and, like, you know, tying these separate strands together, both for the rest of the books and some of his other works that tie in. So in the Dark Tower, we're introduced to Roland, who is the main character. He is the last gunslinger, which is, like, it's hinted at but not fully explained in the first book, but essentially he's one of a group of knights, and they have to go through this like long drawn out process to become gunslingers, and they're trained from a very young age, and then they have to kind of like have the best way to say it is like kind of a test of their manhood. They have to fight their teacher to earn their guns. And you get all those hints, like when, like in, you know, Roland chasing after the man in black, which is what this book is really about. Like, you know, the opening line is, "The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed." That's the entire crux of this book. This is Roland chasing down the man in black, and you don't know why. And through Roland's flashes of memory during certain events, you get to see what led up to Roland dedicating his life to chasing down the man in black and trying to locate the Dark Tower, and his reasons for that, and what's going on with his world, and why everything seems to be so run down and dilapidated, and that the world has moved on, as so many of the characters say in this book. I forgot exactly how much I really loved this book the first time I read it, until I was in the middle of it. When you get involved, when Roland meets up with Jake, and the two of them together and their adventures, and then the run-ins with the man in black and the slow mutants and all these things, like, as you start getting more of a taste of this world, like, you just get pulled in so strongly. And I'm glad I've decided to do this read through again, because there's just so much going on, and like I said, I'd forgotten a lot of it, so it's nice to have this refresher going in, and especially leading up to the movie, because I'm sure, me being me, I'd be sitting there, because I'm one of those people who does compare and contrast, you know, the book version to the movie version if I've experienced both. It'll just be interesting to see, like, my theater going experience, which I'll talk about in a later video when I do get a chance to finally see the Dark Tower movie. But yeah, that's really all I wanted to talk about today. I've finished book 1 of the Dark Tower series, and I'm moving on to book 2. So as soon as I'm done with that, there will be another review video up. As always, I hope you're all well, and I will see you tomorrow. Hey! I don't know if that's going to come across on camera or not, but I don't...